triggering change, one heartbeat at a time. Battle for freedom. Hello, everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio. I'm glad that you're listening in and you're starting this day off the right way. Listen, if you want to, my website's www.battle4freedom.com. We'll start this day off correct way because, you know, I have to talk about American Pride Roasters coffee and the delicious Watson's White Chocolate Chocolate Caramel Coffee. Yeah, I probably need about 5 or 6 extra cups of this. So let's get into American Pride Roasters coffee. That's it. I've hit the snooze button a dozen times and now I have to finally get going. But I'm not going to do this day right if I don't start it off with a cup of American Pride Roasters coffee, the official coffee of Mojo 50 Radio. But I'm not going to lie to you. They have a wide variety of blends, but I'm leaning towards the one that's named after me, Watson's White Chocolate Caramel. You know what? It sounds as good as those words that just rolled off of my mouth. Listen, get it today. AmericanPrideRoasters.com. Tell them that Watson from Battle for Freedom sent you, and you want Watson's White Chocolate Caramel Blend to start your day off. Join American Pride Roasters Coffee and Mojo 50 Radio, and most important, Battle for Freedom, as we celebrate the best coffee in the nation, American Pride Roasters. Yes, and not only American Pride Roasters Coffee, starting your day off on the right mentality, and that is with New Life Holistic, folks. Gotta listen and hear this. Does your mind seem like it often shuts down before it even starts? Sounds like you need to detox to improve your health in body, mind, and spirit. I'd like to tell you about New Life Holistic. It is an amazing therapy process that uses neurofeedback and biofeedback for many issues that ails everyone. New Life's method and approach to health, balance, energy, and vitality is what sets it apart from anything you have experienced ever before. Call 1-833-4-BIO-LIFE and tell them Watson from Battle for Freedom has sent you. One more thing. Give them the code MOJO50 and save $50 off of your first session. The consult is free. New Life Holistic. New Life Holistic. Tell everyone that that's who you love, and thank you. Tell them that Watson sent you. Remember, tell them that Watson from Battle for Freedom sent you so that you can get your life straightened out and trying to get everything on the right path. You know, I'm just one of the many hosts that's on Mojo 50 Radio, and I get a chance to speak with you Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But if you go to Mojo 50, let's say Mojo 50, but Mojo50.com, I want you to go there and check out a lot of the different hosts that are available. You're going to click the schedule button and hear the different voices talking about trying to get your life around. Last night I had the chance of being on Dominic Izzo, and we were really getting into the Bible and talking about a couple of misunderstandings that people may have, or just different views that people have of the Bible. So this network is a wide variety of topics that you can listen to and you can learn and appreciate when you follow the content that's on this network. So go ahead, mojo50.com/schedule, go to shop, go to donate, and so much more. Also open mic, because of the fact that we have different shows that you can listen to that airs from 12 to 4 on Sundays of different voices that could be potentially new shows on this network, and your vote counts. So we appreciate you on doing that. And if you want to interact like so many of the other people have chosen to do, you can go to facebook.com/Mojo50 Radio, like many people did here. I'm seeing Lep, I'm seeing Curtis, I'm seeing Jennifer, I'm seeing Christopher, and Brian. Thank you so much for joining and being part of this as we have this discussion today. So this is the big thing. I've been working on this for a couple of days, and I've been trying to figure out how do I talk about this without sounding like a crazy loon on this, because of the nature of sometimes many of you probably hate listening to Mojo 50, hate listening to Battle for Freedom early in the morning, because I try to be very, very critical or very deep thinking, and probably more than you want to early in the morning, especially if you didn't have your American Pride Roasters coffee.
And when I have these discussions and I start having these things, Battle for Freedom is thinking deeper than just the issue. It's looking beyond the issue. This isn't rabbit hole chasing or anything like that. This is about me looking at the content of the issues going on and seeing, is there a deeper meaning? Is there something deeper going on here that no one wants to have the discussion on? And so I look for the deeper meaning. I look for trying to understand, why is there so much resistance to the truth? And even this week, I had to wonder, we knew it was going to come. We knew that despite how many times Lindsey Graham says that this was a very peaceful process. Yes, it was a peaceful process, but it was not a respectful process. Okay. The Supreme Court hearing nomination process was not a respectful one. When you hear the language that was shared by the Democrats and the accusations rallied against not just the character of the President of the United States, but the character of Amy Coney Barrett, Judge Amy Coney Barrett, Honorable Judge Amy Coney Barrett. So as I sit here and I'm watching this thing unfold, and I was like, okay, there are certain words that you understand that they are avoiding, that masterfully Amy Coney Barrett brought up, that they tried to stay away from. If you notice the pattern of the Democrat Party, they stayed away from certain terms and certain concepts because of the fact that it elicited a height of fear, of the fear mongering that they were going into, threatening people, basically believing that the big scare, the big fear for you to worry about is you losing Obamacare, the big threat of you not having the right to vote. We're going to talk about that in a second as well too. The threat and the fear that even same-sex marriage gay marriage would come to an end. But there's a bigger fear. There was a fear that was being, again, this is just my interpretation of the truth. I forgot to bring the tinfoil, but we spend money on the tinfoil and we're trying not to waste so much money. I'm trying to be resourceful, and maybe I'll find, like, it might be cheaper for just me to get tinfoil spray that I could put on my hair, or lack thereof. But as I sit here watching this thing unfold, I'm trying to make sense of this. I'm looking at everything that's going on, and I found there's a deeper meaning. So I want to go with you with a couple of words. I want to go with you with a couple of words that were shared. And one of the listeners yesterday, he turned around and he hit it on the nail before the program was out. One of the people here, thank you, Chris, for sharing it. And before I get into this, because folks, strap in, because this is going to be fun. Lep is one of the people who are in the timeline. And on Open Mic Sunday, you have Ain't You a Peach there at 12 p.m. Eastern. At 1 o'clock, you have Room 13. And this whole thing about the hotel or motel or wherever they're going, it's pretty hilarious to hear the dynamics, even as you listen to the Daily Mojo that comes after Battle for Freedom in the morning. It's hilarious to hear the language and just the conversation. I think we should all move into this hotel, the Desert Inn Motel or whatever it is. And we have a unique life, because that's probably going to be the safest spot on the earth when everything else is going to hell in a handbasket. But I'm looking at the deeper meaning of this, and I want to share a couple of definitions with you. And I need you to pull out your pieces of paper. Kids, class, we're going to put your thinking caps on. And if you want to call it your conspiracy caps, put your conspiracy caps on, because this rabbit hole is nuclear, or nuclear, or however George Bush could get it correctly. First definition I want to look at for you is, because this really, really, really brings us back in, originalism. The legal philosophy that the words in the documents, and especially the U.S. Constitution, should be interpreted as they were understood at the time that they were written. Originalism. Now, this is the beginning. You have to understand that not only do the Democrats, progressives, fear the concept of originalism, originalism is a word that we can actually, even as biblical scholars, as Bible readers, as Christians, as those in devotion and time and reference and reverence for God. Originalism is also a concept that should be applied even in the life of every Christian. It's basically it's saying context is key. Context without pretext. That you look at the context of the law being written, the word of God being written, and you understand who was this written to at that time. Was this a promise for them, or have we adopted something that we hear and believe that it applies to everyone going forward? Originalism. That concept is so foreign and far removed from the church that we can understand why the church is in its haphazard state right now, because everybody is twisting and making the Bible do or say what they want it to do. Hence, one of the young ladies last night on Dominic Izzo's program last night, her name is Elise, and as we're sitting and we're talking, and she had this concern about the law. And it is breaking my heart because of the fact that you could hear in her voice the pain and the strain of laws being created in church that had nothing to do with God. Laws being created in the church that pushes people off and away from wanting to be involved in church or Christianity or anything out there. Women can't wear pants. Don't rob God. Do not wear makeup. No long hair. Hats on heads. And you sit here and you watch this whole process, and it's like, if they screwed it up that bad in the church, how much more did they screw it up in this country? See, because you have to understand, going to a originalist state or a mentality in the Supreme Court, everybody's saying, well, the balance of the court is thrown off. It's that even the idea of that in and of itself is broken, because of the fact that there should be no balance in the court of one weighing one side this way or one weighing side this way. Because the moment that you actually say that there has to be a conservative leaning side or even a liberal leaning side, the court is no longer responsible or effective in its duties to exact what the law says. Because that means that there's a bias that leans this way, there's a bias that leans this way, and we want to constantly have the scales tipping. No, the scales should never move. In justice, the scales should never move. It should be the same. Equal law and equal representation for the people who are basically power to the people. And the people are not clenched down under the tyranny of oppressive rule. The Constitution was written for the individual. The Constitution was written for the liberty of every American citizen. And when we get back to the idea of the originalist meaning and context of it, we see that there are too many laws, there are too many interpretations of the Constitution that are on the books existing right now that has completely, the reason why we can never get a case ended as soon as it needs to, the reason why cases are moved on months, years, and decades, or even revisited, is because of the fact that there's so many interpretations of the original text that lends people to exacerbate the legal process, the judicial process, instead of it being resolved as fast as possible. Why? Because you remember, and I don't know if I was shocked when I learned about this, there's two constitutions out there. There's the original U.S. Constitution, and for everything that's written inside of it, I implore you, pick up a copy of it and read it, please. And then there's the second Constitution that basically has all the footnotes, and yes, Lep, the courts are supposed to remain neutral. You have the footnotes, you have the dialogues, you have the different ideas and concepts and different legal precedents that have been added out here. And then so we have to go through this interpretation and that interpretation. And so when one person can say, well, this is legal, another person can say that's not legal. So then they argue, rather than looking at the face value of whatever the situation is, to not basically strain the purpose and need of the Constitution. Hence, that's the reason why there's a barbarism of justice in this country, because of the fact that you have people who have failed to uphold their oath to defend the Constitution and execute its very purpose and intention. It's neither left nor right. Correct, Lep. Neither left nor right. So you sit here and you watch this thing unfold. Originalism, and as you sit here and you listen to you look at the heading of this program. SCOTUS Severability, Threats of Restoring Liberty. This is why you see what they did to Kavanaugh. This is why you see. I mean, let's get into some of the language of this week. So the threat of ACA. Everybody's, oh, you're going to lose your capability. You look at no. See, it's them trying to do fear mongering. The people who always started clamoring of fear mongering spent this whole week fear mongering. These people, this person's going to lose it. And then the one that was so interesting that they got in, and I couldn't understand why until this morning. The idea where Amy Coney Barrett dissented on the issue of a felon having the right to vote versus a felon having a right to bear arms. And you have to understand this, and I need someone to change this. Thank you, Linda, for joining. I need someone to check into this and look and see if within the first 10 within the Bill of Rights is there any language that talks about the idea of voting? I don't have it memorized. Please forgive me. I have a 9-to-5 job. I have a beautiful wife and children and so many other different things that I need to focus on. But someone, do me a favor, clarify for me whether or not there is any language in the first 10 amendments. Is there any language in there? I should have had Gene Biardelli on here. If you want to see him, Gene Biardelli, great friend, and I've known him. I've had the honor of knowing him for a while. He has a network. He has a website called Buffoon of the Week, BUFFOON of the week.com. Go there and enjoy the articles. Actually, I'm trying to make sure that you can see many of those articles on Battle for Freedom. I would probably say the Battle for Freedom's website's now about 99% done, probably a few cosmetics here or there, but now I'm including a whole lot more when you go to Battle for Freedom. Nothing in the Bill of Rights that says anything of, thank you, Brian, about voting. So you have to understand, there's two premises of this. When we look at the legal argument that was presented by Amy Coney Barrett about why she favored the idea of restoring a person's right to bear arms versus restoring a person's right to vote. One, the Democrats going on through this way is the idea of, one, to say voter intimidation. The other way is to basically say the idea that, look, here it is, another white person trying to deny your right to vote. Understand the legal, the undercurrent terms of what happens here in using this language to basically say, here it is, a white person, the Supreme Court justice that is no longer believable. There's no more honor and integrity in the Supreme Court. They're trying to take away your right to vote. But there's nothing in the Bill of Rights until the only time we get to the issue of the Bill of Rights happens not until the 14th Amendment. And this is basically where a full Republican, only Republican Congress, where there was no votes from Democrats after the ending of slavery and giving blacks the right to vote. 100% Republican support, 0% Democrat support. But they don't want to tell you that. They don't want to tell you the history of the Democrat Party, that has not changed. It is still the same party as it was when this country first began, of keeping people subjugated in ignorance and basically making them vessels for their dirty work. And black people are still on the plantation. They're still on the plantation. It may be the concrete plantation, but they're still on the plantation. Because if I keep them ignorant, if I keep them uninformed, I can control and manipulate them, and especially so if I keep them emotional the whole time. They're taking away our right to vote. Burn that MFR down. See, I didn't break the rule. You recognize this? Do you recognize this? So the language is being perpetrated here is the idea that Amy Coney Barrett, a white woman, and despite the fact that she has black children, has the idea and mentality that she's going to strip away your right to vote. Whereas there is clear legal definition of a person's right to bear arms in the Second Amendment. So look, because of she being an originalist, because of the fact that she is looking at the text of what's been presented to her, she has her obligated duty to basically say, let's reevaluate this text that basically says whether or not a person has the right to vote. To bear arms. What does it mean as a felon? And to basically sit there and then push on something. So you remember where people say, well, we want the judgment to match the crime. Well, if you voting, not even voter interpretation, mail people who are going around and stealing people's mail-in ballots. That's a felonious crime or a felonious crime. So if you sit here and you get caught and you basically are arrested for stealing someone's mail, guess what? You shouldn't lose your right to bear arms. You should lose your right to vote. Most definitely, because you've proven yourself not to be trustworthy in the aspect, in the avenue of one of the most blessing opportunities of being an American citizen. So now, to sit here and constantly hit this idea of she's stealing your right to vote, you're stealing your right to vote. This is only to go to the uninformed or the less informed or the intellectually malleable. Yes, big words early in the morning, probably more than what you want to hear. But understand this. Severability, because that's where I want to go with this. Severability is something else. Mitchell, I love this because so much more happens here. Mitchell, you're on the track here, baby. Currently, the left is violating the Constitution with the COVID restrictions. They are allowing some businesses to open, but telling non-supporters they can't. Yes. So that you have to understand something. As an originalist, Amy Coney Barrett, and unfortunately the passing of Anton Scalia, you have the originalists that basically will now turn around and so they will strip the overreaching powers of the government and put it right back to we the people. This is the threat. In his inauguration 4 years ago, or 3 years ago and 10 months, or 3 years ago and 9 months, the President of the United States of America said one of the most beautiful things in his inauguration speech, where I was so happy he said this. He said, we are going to take the power back from the government and give it back to you. And the direction of the Supreme Court. So every one of you who said there, we need Donald Trump for the for his Supreme Court nominations. Yes. Slow clap. Thank you. Yes, you were right. Yes, you were right. Yes. I'm still going to enjoy my freedom and my right that I chose not to vote for Donald Trump in 2016. That is my freedom. That is my right. As dangerous as you may have assumed it to be, my hope and trust is in God more than anything else, regardless of who is in the White House, who is in Congress, who is on the Supreme Court. But I say bravo to every last one of you who voted for Donald Trump to allow him to be president of the United States of America. Because we're sitting here and it's very unfortunate where we are in this state, in this country, because freedom is to be lost in the directions of the liberal progressive movement. And make no mistake, there are a lot of people who should not be voting. Raquel Lee, love it, from Room 13. Check her out this Sunday. We should also call them the gullible voter, because some of these people will believe anything you tell them without even the FETI, the information you're giving to them. FETI. It looks like someone's using her Siri again to basically speak into her notes, but that's okay because we understand this. The gullible voter should not be making the decisions there. Folks, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we got so much more we're going to talk about. Thank you very much for being part of Battle for Freedom. I love all you people. Talk to you on the flip side.
This election will be vital to the health and sustainability of our country. Our role from this day on could steer the election in either direction. Why? The way we treat one another. In John 13:35, Jesus says, "By this all people will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." We know that every election cycle brings out the worst in us. If there was ever a point for honesty, it is in how we act during election season. As much as we would want our candidate to win, attacking a person with contrary opinions only makes them determined to reject our point of view all the more. It may come off as ignorant from them, but we cannot claim innocence if we allow arrogance and disrespect to be the means in which we communicate with those who support the other party or other candidates. Our goal was and will never be to convert voters. Our role is to give them the information needed prior to them casting their vote. It is their choice and right of what they do with that information. Understand, more people are aware of the political corruption and hypocrisy than they wish or want to admit. So there's nothing for us to prove. Choose to be people who invoke change rather than people who irritate and strain. Dale Carnegie once wrote, "A man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still." In other words, give people the room to make their own mistakes. Without seeing that they were wrong, they would be blind to see what is right. Remember, every soldier present and gone have fought for the right of every American citizen to vote their own conscience. To insult and ridicule people for exercising their liberty to vote for their candidate is to also desecrate the efforts, memories, and sacrifices made by our heroes for said liberty. Please, show respect. Our nation depends on it.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Watson Prunier from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 5 Radio, and I'm glad that you are here, that you're paying attention and you're following. I want you to understand something here. As I'm in all these legal terms, I want you to understand we have another sponsor, USCCA. I want you to go to uscca.com/mojo50 because of the fact that everyone has legal needs. Everyone has a need for legal representation. It's not just crime. I know, yeah, you want to continue smoking weed. No, it's more than that. It could be anything. It could be anything that's out there that you may not anticipate. I have my own legal representation, not through USCCA, but I encourage you, go there and use their services because of the fact that it's just needed in this day as we're near the edge or the precipice of the worst civil war that this country has ever seen. uscca.com/mojo50 and mojo50 and tell them that Watson from Battle for Freedom on Mojo 50 Radio sent you. The legal needs, the legal concerns are critical. And yes, Lisa, happy Friday. Hello, Renee. Vetting. The vetting was what Raquel was trying to say. As we sit here, before I get back into this, I want you to understand something. This is probably one of the most shocking moments ever. That here we are, the most hated black man in America right now, and this is golden, Jerry. This is gold. The most hated black man in America right now. Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Yes, we are. Ice Cube. Ice Cube is the most hated black man in America. Okay, hated more than Kanye West. Hated more than me. Hated more than any black conservative that's out there. Hated more than Candace Owens. Hated more than Tatum O'Neal. I was gonna say Tatum O'Neal, but from the Tatum report, hated more than Thomas Sowell. And here's the reason why. If you haven't heard this, this is the biggest thing ever. So Ice-T is bringing realization to this administration's efforts to help and push the success of blacks in America. But you have to understand something. He's hated because he's sharing the truth. This was a tweet from him on October 14th. Facts. I put out the CWBA. This is about helping black people. Both parties contacted me. Dems said we'll address the CWBA after the election. Trump campaign made adjustments to their plan after talking to us about the CWBA. So you have to understand something. When the president of the United States of America is going out of his way to help minorities, it's with historically black colleges, the idea of low unemployment, success in the black community. That you sit here and you see, well, they're not turning around. They're not turning around and giving you, making you a judge. You know, the president didn't appoint any black judges. You really think putting a black judge is what constitutes the evolution of America? No, the evolution of America and seeing blacks succeed is basically freeing blacks from the dominion and the oppressive rule of the government, and also freeing them from their bondage in the Democrat Party, so that a black person can be free to pursue their dreams, not being held back by the constraints of the oppression of our government through overregulation and overreaching. And here it is, you have Ice Cube, who once wanted the president arrested, is now basically saying that Trump, this administration, has done what it can to allow me to be in a policy-making decision to help blacks. And hundreds of millions of dollars have been given to Ice Cube to sit there and coordinate the success of allowing blacks to be more successful in America. This is what is happening. This is the truth. This is the reality. But what happens? Instead of celebrating in this reality, the news, everybody's attacking him. He's a sellout. I shared a meme yesterday, and I didn't even realize in the meme, on the bottom of the meme, it called him, I thought it said another conservative. It said another coon-servative. Yes, he's a coon because of the fact that he actually wants black people to succeed, but he's not going through the route of the Democrat Party that has been for the working people all this time. If you don't recognize the language there of oppression, you can succeed, but not without our say. You can go forward, but not without our approval. This is the reason why they are afraid. This is the reason why they are importing voters from across the border. This is the reason why they want mail-in harvesting. Because the moment that you do mail-in ballot harvesting, you can turn around and you can affect the election for the rest of our time. Let me go into one more thing because I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget this thing here. You have to understand this is how far it goes too, because this was crazy. Ice Cube had a chance to be interviewed yesterday. So the powers that be canceled my interview on Cuomo Primetime Live tonight. This would have been last night. I've actually been banned from CNN for a few months, so I was surprised they even asked. But it seems like they can't handle the truth. The most hated black man in America is a black man who actually has the nerve to tell people about the reality of this presidency and what this president will do to help blacks succeed in this country, and they can't handle it. Let me go to another commercial so I can pull a couple of more things I want you to hear on this. And being prepared, folks, be prepared, because this is about to get really insane.
When the world is going to hell in a handbasket, you need rugged. You need strong. You need durable. You need Cat coolers. These are the best coolers on the market in 27, 55, and 88 quart. Go to catcoolers.com and give them the code Watson to save 10% on your purchase. Don't settle for those substandard containers that melt, leak, and destroy your memorable moments. Tell them that Watson from Battle4Freedom sent you. Cat coolers.
I'm going to show you something that I think you will be very critical to you as any American, that you can help other people, especially blacks, with the problem of keeping them down and the low information that's been provided by the Democrat Party to keep them in bondage. Again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in a second, but I talked to you about the Uncle Tom DVD. You need to pick this up, make the investment. It's well worth it. And I would say share it with your black friends who want to listen. Share it with your black friends who are ready to start looking beyond what the media is manipulating them to feel and be angry about and what's happening here. And the other one I want you to get, and this is one I had watched about 10 or 15 years ago, and it's called Setting the History Straight, Setting the Record Straight, American History in Black and White. You have to pick up this DVD. It's very affordable, and you can't go wrong. It breaks down and starts talking about the reality. As I sit here learning, and I got very mad when I found out that yes, slavery was ended in the 1860s. We had the Civil War, but the idea of the slavery coming to an end was by an all Republican vote, zero Democrat support. I find out about the whole idea of blacks getting the right to vote by primarily and zero Democrat support, if I'm correct. But you had Republicans doing this, the blacks being in government, in federal government, state government, local government, all Republicans for the first 70 years after the end of slavery. After the end of slavery. Don't tell me that there was no civil rights. See, this is what I don't like about the great with whatever Martin Luther King tried to do. But everybody keeps making it seem like that those efforts back then in the 1950s and 1960s were the only effort of civil rights movements to free black people. But we had it back in the 1860s. Hundreds of thousands, was it near 1 million Americans died for this? But they don't want you to know that. They want to keep you in bondage. They want to keep you in bondage, and it's for a reason. It is unfortunate. It is disgusting, and you're going to basically take this out to your friends. Order the Uncle Tom and American History in Black and White, and start freeing people. It is necessary that this happens. If we don't do it now, it will be far too late, and you could be helping a community survive and be out of the bondage of the government. Uncle Tom DVD and American History in Black and White. I want you to pick up these two because of the fact that these turn around and give people the ability to have a conversation with a black person, have a conversation with an individual to help them understand the importance of waking up from the restraints that have been pushed on them, the oppression that's been pushed on them because of the overreaching arm of the government. There are blacks who hopefully they will spend time picking up these DVDs, picking these up and having a conversation with people because of the fact that this is key. This is critical to them being free. Actually, the key thing to them being free is them knowing who Jesus Christ is, being in a relationship with Jesus Christ, and understanding that their existence and everything about them is found in know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. And understand that I'm not black before I'm Christian. I'm Christian first in everything. I'm Christian first. I'm Christian before I vote. I'm Christian before I breathe. I'm Christian. I am under the freedom and grace of God, but also His law to help me live a life that is pleasing before Him. Uncle Tom and American History in Black and White. Pick it up. Trust me, you can't go wrong here. You have to understand that this man, that he is the most hated black man, and there's a reason for this. There's a reason why he's being held back. There's a reason why he is hated, because he's freeing people. And we can free people too. And we can free people too. My goodness. This is something else. Let me get back into this before I forget. So I want to bring this back, and I want you to understand the second definition that we need to look at. This is a word that was heard throughout this is a word that was selectively used by this is a word that was basically heard by Amy Coney Barrett, that she kept saying it. You ever hear when people say a word and it just makes you feel uncomfortable? You know how sometimes people, it's not just the scratching fingers on the chalkboard, but it's the idea of MAGA is a word that could be said that just rubs people wrong. The N word is a word that rubs people wrong. It does things to people. And she kept saying this word, and I couldn't understand why the word had this unique thing. Let's look at this for a second here. The severability clause. A clause as in a contract which states that the provisions are severable, especially a clause in a statute that makes the statute's parts or provisions severable so that one part can be invalidated without invalidating the whole, also called severability clause. But severability clause, the legal definition of the severability clause, this was something that was being said, and I need everyone to get out your notepads and you need to look into this, because this is the reason why, this is the scope. Yes, there's Trump derangement syndrome, okay? There's Trump derangement syndrome, but you have to remember, the first term I wanted you to remember was originalism. The second term I want you to remember is the severability clause. And here it is in the big nutshell, and let's have fun and let's unpack this and let's talk about this for a little bit here. Is because the moment that you allow the first precedent of severing parts of Obamacare, whether it was a taxation aspect of it or whatever part, and also too, I want to even venture to even determine the actual legitimacy and in the constitutionality of even Obamacare and existing in and of itself. That we turn around and we visit whether or not this is even something that the government should be doing, because I don't believe there was anything in the original text of the Constitution that basically said that the government had to provide health care for American citizens. See, because there has to be an amendment to the Constitution that we start stripping away some of these powers from the legal area and recognize whether or not there was, because remember too, if I'm correct, it wasn't a supermajority that passed Obamacare. It was just a majority. It wasn't 2/3 of Congress. It wasn't 2/3 of the Senate that passed Obamacare. It was only a majority. Hence, the fact that it was only a majority and not a supermajority of 2/3 or higher means that there's zero veto power, and I don't believe there's even the ability for there to be a law to remove it. That means that an axe can be taken to every aspect of Obamacare, and not only Obamacare, not only the Affordable Care Act. But Social Security is another thing that can be axed as a result of the severability clause. Do you recognize that an originalist has a mentality and has the ability to restore America? When I say threats of restoring liberty, means that we are actually restoring America back to its original context, not the idea of putting people back in slavery and chains. Because the fact that as you sit here and you look at the law, any law that was basically even manufactured or produced because of the Constitution back in 1791 and has been pushed forward that in any way constitutes the idea of supporting slavery, it is completely squashed. It is completely squashed in the preamble. It is squashed in so many different aspects of the Bill of Rights that there's that nothing can support the idea of slavery. But see, what happens is they're afraid that we're going back to those. You're going to have us go back to those original points and times. And unfortunately, there was a major failure on the part of the United States of America that would allow slavery to continue in light of them freeing ourselves from the burden and rule of Mother England. But the idea of making the assumption that we're going to go back to the days of slavery if we actually roll back the Constitution to its original meaning, it's the highest level of ignorance for people who lack the ability to discern and recognize that if we actually go back to its original meaning, you will be freer than ever, because then we get rid of income tax, we get rid of Social Security, we get rid of all of these burden taxes. The idea that you can tax a family who they lost a loved one, and that loved one has riches, and that riches that rightfully deserves and belongs to their descendants, that there has to be a tax appended to that, even though there were taxes already paid for the existence and the existence of said wealth. And there's this overburden of taxes upon taxes upon taxes that we find everything that we can tax people on. And this is the reason why they're so afraid of originalists being on the Supreme Court. Because the moment that you put more and more originalists on the Supreme Court and you can bring up as many issues as you want to, you now have the ability to start chopping that corruption tree down one swing at a time. That you can hit here. This is the reason why they are freaking out, is because of the fact that, you know what, the tax penalty was removed. So the moment that you remove this tax penalty, then we can remove this tax, because we can test the legitimacy of this. We can test the constitutionality of this, and they don't want it back. They don't want constitutions. See, here's the thing about it. You want originalists on the Supreme Court. You need originalists on the Supreme Court, because the moment that we do this, you truly start seeing power removed from the government at every level and pushed back into the hands of the American citizens. But you know what? They're fighting this because they don't want you free. Look at the people who are fighting for you to be free, and they construct lies and deceptions to make you believe that your freedoms are being threatened when it's actually your bondage is being threatened. Why? Think about this. Why do you think that the Catholic Church and the Church of England and so much more were offended when people like Tyndale were turning around and giving and putting the Word of God and putting the Bible in layman's hands so that they could read the Bible for themselves? Why? Because you would be free. And they didn't want that. The guy in the Book of Eli said it was a weapon to control the masses. And right now, the Constitution that is the obliterated rape Constitution is basically a weapon to control the masses. We're going to create laws to do reparations. We're going to create laws to make everybody equal. We're going to create laws to make sure that you don't have to pay for anything. That is a rapage of every liberty that we have as American citizens. And I'm sorry, baby, if you don't have the money because you wanted to go out and spend on rims, or you wanted to go spend out on Hilljack stuff, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You chose to be irresponsible with your money. See, I'm done with the Libertarian Party. I'm done with the Libertarian Party. It's not because of the fact that it's not because of the fact that they don't have the votes to actually change the country around. It's just that I just learned that the Libertarian Party is just as bad as the other two parties. Vote for whoever you want to. I know I've mentioned Joe Jorgensen. I know I've mentioned Donald Rainwater. But one of the things, because I'm trying to interview people, and people conveniently don't have time for me to interview them, but they could be on Facebook all the time long, having conversations, but they don't want to make times. Hey, can we find a time that we can sit down and have a conversation with you? See, because this is what happened. 2 or 3 weeks ago, Jo Jorgensen was here in Indiana, in Westfield, Indiana. And she had her thing, and she was up there, and she was saying whatever. She was saying, repeating the stuff that all politicians say. And I turned around and I asked 2 questions. The first question that I asked is, you know what, you guys talk about, this idea of, oh, let's remove government control and so we can smoke pot and do whatever we want to. Find out one of the things I definitely don't agree with her on is Jo Jorgensen supports Black Lives Matter. So you lost me there. You lost me there, period. But that's your choice. If you want to support them, go ahead and support them. Because you're beating this drum of black people and systemic racism going on here. You're carrying on that language because you're trying to win people rather than saying, hey, let's talk to black people about what are the freaking poor decisions that you're making that involves you being arrested by the police in the first place. Why are the police showing up to your place in the first place? Why are they even there? Why are you being pulled over? Why are you gangbanging and thinking that there won't be any consequences to your actions? So I asked her, I said, everybody can agree that no one wants more government in their lives. I said, but I haven't heard any candidate in years, decades. Everybody talks about what they're going to do about taking away the rights of American citizens, but no one talks about what responsibilities every American citizen has to function without their government. She never answered the question. She wasn't prepared for the question. And even I even went further, because they keep talking about, because everybody wants to be able to smoke pot and be free. That there's the victimless crimes. People need to stop being arrested for victimless crimes. And I said, you need to clear up the language on that, because of the fact that there are victims. There are victims when people turn around. There are victims who turn around and are drug addicts, marriages falling apart. And in those marriages, if there are children, the children lose their parents because of drug addiction. Everything is dissolving. Families are falling apart because of victimless crimes. Our freedom to get high and do whatever we want, victimless crimes. No one want to talk to me anymore. No one wants to talk to me anymore because I'm asking questions. Now, Donald Rainwater, basically, he did say this. I'll give him the credit on this aspect. He did say he said to me that, you know what, when we assume self-governing, we also assume the idea that people would also have self-responsibility. But it has to go beyond the assumption now. It has to go into a declaration. Y'all need to start making better decisions. It's not just us at the top. It's you at the bottom. But as long as we keep saying that, hey, I'm from the government and I'm here to help, we're going to enjoy the power. We're going to enjoy the ability to transform and change America to the way that we want, never improving it by putting it back in the hands of the American citizen to allow people to make the decisions for themselves. And if they fail, they fail. So this whole idea of SCOTUS severability, folks, this is huge. This is huge because we want more originalists on the court, because that is the way that we restore liberty back to American citizens. And we turn around, and not only do we change this on the court, but we want originalists who are senators, originalists who are congressmen, originalists who are mayors, originalists who are governors and presidents. It doesn't matter. Originalists who are in our government, serving and recognizing this is not a lifetime appointment. This is not a lifetime career. And my job and my purpose is to actually make certain that I observe the rules and the writ of the Constitution, and I show my due diligence to bless those who are sitting who are under our blessings as leaders of this country. This is the reason why they don't want this. Because the moment that you take an axe to Obamacare, you can take an axe to Social Security, you can take an axe to every barbarism against our liberties in the name of so-called fairness from the government. It is not the government's responsibility to basically take care of the needs of other American citizens. No, because when we are overtaxed and we're overburdened, you know what? We have less money to give to those who can be helped. It should not, and everybody wants to even look at the church to be the one. No. We are the church. If you are a believer in Jesus Christ, it is your responsibility that God puts people in your life that you can help, and you can further them along and where they go. So if you have more money, I'm not saying don't give money to the church. Make an offering. Give to the glory of God. But there are people too that God puts right in front of your face that you could bless right now. I'm not talking about the person who's on the side with the sign. I'm telling you, because unfortunately, you need to be able to reach people, because there are some people who are in that state, but some of them take it to the next step. Some of them actually decide that they don't want to be out on the streets. Some of them decide that, no, I'm not going to make it a career standing on the corner. I'm basically going to just start asking out, please, can you help? And then they actually listen and they start applying, because I know people who are crack addicts. I have the honor of knowing one gentleman who was a crack addict, and he asked us, bring me a Bible study. Come pick me up. We took him to Bible study. He basically got into a relationship with a dear friend who passed away years ago. And I saw a guy go from a rehab house to serving in Sunday school, to being a leader, to being married, to being a father, to ending up getting his college degree. Don't tell me it's not possible. I don't even have it with me right now to show you with this. A 12-year-old kid who's out there, who's in college, black kid. So the attitude of gratitude is messed up today. If there's any attitude of gratitude, it is for Amy Coney Barrett. It's for Amy Coney Barrett and every other originalist who will hit the courts and who will basically don the political halls of justice in this country. And the political halls of legislation and the executive branch, every aspect that we can see on here. Renee Marie says, if Biden wins, I'm going to need to start smoking pot. Me too. Oh my goodness, this is hilarious. Oh, folks, listen. The Daily Mojo's up next with Brad Staggs. The guy who loves to say, come on, Watson, get this thing working here so I can get the sounds going. Who loves to say, Watson! Listen, I'm your host, Watson Prude from Battle for Freedom. I appreciate it, all of you guys. Spread the foil. Spread the foil. I'm your host, Watson Prude, and I'm out.